There we go. That's going. That's going. This is going. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. It is the last available Sunday for me to do that. And if I wore this hat next Sunday or in July, you might think I was a weirdo. Good thing you think I'm real normal now, yeah? I'll tell you what, we're going to get into the last book of the Bible. Nathan, get a Bible, son. You want to carry one to school every day, get one now. Last book of the Bible. You got one in front of you. It's going to be up there on the screen. And if you need help and find it, don't go to the front, go to the end. We're going to be in Revelation chapter 1. We're going to stay there. Stay there as long as it takes, Nathan Knight, just so you know. All right? Yeah. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Vivian Knight, is that this book is without parallel in the Bible. It is such a head scratcher that people with degrees upon degrees. Now, we've been studying this book for, upwards of 2,000 years. And it's still doing this to folks. People that are much smarter than me. Now, I know you're super intelligent, but this is a tough one. You can't go to Genesis or any of the other 64 books and find something like, oh, this is saying the same thing as Revelation. So what we're going to do here is explore Revelation. You do what you want, man, but she's on you, okay? I'm not parenting right now, Butch. Hey, Vivian, he's trying to coach you over there with something entertaining there, Butch, your boy Butch. All right. Now, what we're talking about here is a revelation of Jesus. And if you've never had one to the degree like this book of the Bible, well, that's okay. Me neither. So at least we got that in common. And if you've ever tried to study this before and gotten more confused while you was reading and after you've done studying, then we're all in the same camp that way too. And just as soon as you think you got it figured out, somebody else shoots some holes into your argument. The struggle with this book is thinking you got it all figured out. That's one of the trapdoors in this book. So since there's so much to not understand and so much that might be over your head or under your feet, I just want to meet you where you're at, okay? And so if I can not do this and avoid that and go, we're here, then we might come away having done something good today. So I can tell you, and maybe you've been invited in like this, I've had some people in my life that I was on such good terms with that when I came to their house, I didn't go to the front door. I was at the back door. And yeah, I might have had a key, but a lot of times that door was never locked. Now, a lot of times because there was another door that was locked, they had to get to first, right? But when you would open this particular door in my grandmother's home on 155 Madison Street, this is what you'd hear. Now, show of hands, just curious. You ever walk through a door and something like this happened? Oh, yeah, hands are shooting up, right? Now, you could come over unannounced to this back door. Now, I'm a hospice chaplain. I work for Compassus Hospice. And, a lot of times I'll show up to meet somebody new. Sometimes they give you an instruction because there's multiple entries, like this church. There's more than one door. They'll tell you, come to the side door. Come to the back door. Occasionally, yeah, we prefer you come to the front door. But most cases, when you're in with somebody, do you use the front door? No, you use the door most often used. And at my granny's house, that was a back door. And just so I can hold it up again so you can hear this, and I want your mind to go there because I want you to cry. That's what I'm getting after. This was Great Nanny's noise. This wasn't my granny's noise, but I heard this noise when I went into Great Nanny's back door. Really the garage door, but in terms of where we're going here. You'd hear this. My wife says she wants this on our back door. And I said, okay, how quickly would you like this to be completely broken? Because at our house, we slam the door. Well, we're getting on some common ground so we can better understand what is kind of uncommon and like we already talked about, without parallel. So we might have already stumbled upon some parallels. I can tell you there was a home in New Orleans, Louisiana, and they didn't have a chime like that, but I was blessed to be told you don't ever have to knock. You just come on in. And there was a little chime, a little bell or something. And my God, I wish I could hear that noise go off because I want the people that used to greet me in such a welcoming way to still be there. You get what I mean? But maybe if this thing hangs on our door for long enough, there'll be another generation or two or three, Lord provides, that they'll feel what you're feeling now. You get me? So today I would just invite you to be present. We're going to talk about time today. I don't want you to be so concerned about however long I might preach and when the service might get over. I want you to forget about what a struggle it might have been for you to roll out of bed and put 2 feet on the ground and get with it, going to church, doing something you ain't got to do. I want you to focus on this time where you could easily condense this video into the corner of your smartphone so you could still surf the news feed or do whatever you're doing. Just focus on this time so we can be present and ponder and better understand the things you already know. So just maybe we could understand some of the things we don't know. This is a letter from John, and it's a great debate as to who this John is. We've got some Johns in the room today, right? So we can liken that to several hundred a millennia plus ago. There was more than one John running around, and we're not exactly sure who this John was. We're not going to get stuck there. I just pointed out that this particular John is writing to 7 churches. If you've studied Revelation at all, they talk a lot about symbols and imagery, and we're going to dabble there a little bit, but I don't want to get stuck on why it's important that these were 7 churches. All we know is we're going to move forward in this letter or this revelation where this John is writing to 7 churches in Asia Minor. Know where that is? Ever vacation there? Me neither. What we're talking about is primarily around the coastline of the country known as Turkey today. That's why I selected this text, this hat, all just so I could say that, right? John's an outsider. No matter who this particular John is, he's traveled to these places, but that's not hometown. And overall, he's significant to us because his name falls in the Bible, but he's not so important that it's pointed out to us exactly who this John is. I mean, if he was really important, don't you think he'd make sure that we weren't confused who he was? So John's an outsider who gets glimpses of the mystery of God's purpose. And that's to mean to say that these images that appear in Revelation, they don't appear logical. Beasts, dragons, things with like scorpion-looking tails, beings with multiple eyes, multiple wings, the heads of eagles and lions, dead, rising from the ground, so on, so forth. Bowls, candles, burners, angels. You seen any of this? No. We've seen pictures of, or maybe we've watched a show on television about, or you've had this person that said, I saw the white light, or I saw my mom and dad, or my grandfather was waiting on me, or I feel the hand of my late husband upon my shoulder. We're getting glimpses there, but I mean that to say glimpses to the mystery of God's purpose. And so in this book of the Bible, they don't appear logical at all, but John is using these images to form our imagination and our emotions. Now, I was a teenager when the Left Behind series was popularized. If you're not familiar with that, it's a series of books and became movies about, a cinematic interpretation of the book of Revelation. That's just this generation's version of things. I don't know if you noticed this, but I got some tattoos. And I told somebody recently, if you get the same verse tattooed on you more than once, you probably like that verse. Well, I got a bunch of Revelation stuff on me. So there's something about that book and all these thoughts and all this imagery that I really dig. And you know when I first started to dig it? Granny, it's your fault. What would happen was I'd find myself at the dinner table that you hit when you walked into that door. And I can remember a number of conversations as a young man that was probably 8, 9, 10, 11, and we got some of them in the room, right? And they are really good at asking me tough questions. And I find myself around that table, and I was one of these boys, one of these young people, oh man, church is twice on Sundays. Youth group is Wednesdays. Children's choir is this day. We was there a lot. So I was heavily indoctrinated, but I was also into what my boys are into. War, cowboys, all things with swords and knives and fighting. And I would hear inklings about this war in heaven, right? Forces of good and evil, angel armies, kings with swords and crowns. My last name is Knight. What more do you want as a young boy? And I'm quizzing my granny. I'm quizzing my parents about this stuff, and they don't have the answers. So in my family, when you can't be given an answer, your mom takes you to the public library. And that's where I stumbled upon 15th century artwork interpreting this battle over my soul, because the devil might get me. But Michael, the archangel, might come in with this huge spear and kill this demon. I mean, science fiction, fantasy, history, you might say, past, present, future. I mean, it was scratching all my itches. And my mother, who is displeased by a lot of my choices, well, shame on you. You took me to the public library, and little did you know, someday I was going to take this artwork and place it permanently on my body. You think she would have done it if hindsight was 20/20? How many things would you change if hindsight were 20/20? If you knew past, present, and future, if you knew the last time you was going to hear this noise when this person was alive, wouldn't you savor it a little bit more? Wouldn't you walk through that door a little slower? Wouldn't you do anything to have that parallel again? Book of Revelation points people towards that hope, does it not? But it confuses the mess out of you before all that happens. The imagery used here is an attempt to put this visionary experience into things we understand. John, as we all would, struggles to expand the boundaries of human language to sum up what defies description. Now, that's a smart boy phrase that I'm quoting from somebody else, but this is one of those stories that, much like the one I told yesterday, you had to be there. You should have been there. Okay, I'm not even going to tell you the story because I can't do it justice. So that's where we get gates of pearl, streets of gold, walls of jasper. Am I telling you these things don't exist? No, I'm not. But anytime the Bible uses the word amazed, the literal interpretation of that amazed is out of their minds with excitement, trembling with awestruck fear. The kind of image where you go, how can this be? And you try to take one of those moments, the birth experience, the death experience, the first kiss, the first dance, the I do's, the driver's license. Let's keep going. The first birthday, the last birthday, the hugs that should have ended, but you held on a little bit longer. Keep on going. The imagery starts to snowball in your mind, and so you get where John's going. John's got to use some out of this world descriptives because he was amazed beyond belief. And let's regard the fact that he's supposed to be exiled on an island in which nobody else lives. Ever seen Castaway? Ever seen Tom Hanks? I'm not saying John was doing this. They didn't have a volleyball for him to talk to. But how long does it take for you to be isolated before you feel like, I think I'm going a little stir crazy? And then you might see things. And then you might do things. You get what I mean? Okay, you're on a deserted island. There's nobody there. How good are you at finding water you can drink? Oh, not so good? Well, just go today without drinking any water and see if tonight you have some interesting dreams. You know what I mean? Let's do a 24-hour fast and see if your emotions kind of do peaks and valleys, right? You got to imagine the writer of this highly contested book is, kind of like we're weaving together palm fronds. We're getting a little Tom Hanks Castaway-ish. God has communicated in a way with John that is contentious and disputed and has provoked every reader ever since it was written down and read by somebody else. So we got a parallel there. What we're doing today, it's been an ongoing wrestling match. And with all that being said, I said we were going to read Revelation. Let's actually do it. Revelation chapter 4, the fourth and part of the fifth verse. Grace and peace to you from the one who is, who always was, and who is still to come. From the sevenfold Spirit before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, he is the faithful witness to these things, the first to rise from the dead, and the ruler of all the kings of the world. Grace and peace. If you've gotten a letter from me, if you heard me speak before, that's something I like to use, grace and peace, and I stole it. I stole it from this. I stole it from other people because I don't like the how you doing. I like to say, peace, y'all. Grace and peace. Good to see you. Where you at? Good to know you. Glad you're here. These are no different today than they were back then. But if we was walking around in that Asia Minor, coast of Turkey, it's a big melting pot of ethnicity. And you got a lot of folks that are Greek speaking. So if you're Greek speaking, you say grace in that Greek way. But there's a lot of Jewish folks in that part of the world, a lot of transplants, a lot of moving around. And so if you're of the Jewish persuasion and you know or you speak Hebrew, you might say that word that you might be familiar with, shalom, peace. And then you know how it is. We got this at our house. The shoes look good with the pants, but they don't exactly match, but you wear them anyways. Grace and peace. Let's put it all together. And just so we can have a little bit more fun together, I know you have a go-to greeting because you've been using it pretty much your whole life. It might be a good idea to expand your repertoire of how you greet someone, but on the count of three, we're all together going to use our go-to greeting. Okay? Got it in your mind? 1, 2, 3. Where you at? I heard a bunch of different stuff. Good. When we greet people, do we do more than greet people and then move about our business? Or should the greeting be a true greeting? How are you? And a lot of times when I call people as a hospice chaplain, first off, they got to reconcile that I'm not trying to update their warranty or tell them there's a problem with their insurance claim. And then I'll say something along the lines, how are you doing? And they have heard that so many times in recent memory from people that do not seem to care how they're doing. And so quickly, I will follow up that question without allowing them to answer. And I say, I've got time and I really want to know. So the next time you're at the grocery store, don't greet people unless you've got time behind the greeting. That's what we got to understand about Revelation 1 verse 4. Grace and peace, and I want you to experience it. I don't want these words to be hollow. So this guy that's exiled on an island, sure enough, if you was able to scratch some things on some tree bark or on some animal skins, yes, best believe there is purpose and meaning behind these words, or why else would he use them? Why else would he say them? Don't say words without purpose, y'all. Grace and peace. The standard ancient world is very standard today in that this verse goes on to tell us is, was, is still. That's 3, right? As I count. Is, was, is still. Any other significant 3s in the Bible? Shout them out.
The Trinity.
Trinity, yes. Kings, okay. Huh? Wise men, 3 wise men. Anybody? Oh my gosh, Christian church. 3 days in the grave, y'all? 1. Yeah. That Bible school one did something for me, yeah? It's symbolic, right? But we have our own past. We have our own present. And hopefully we have a future. And we would say, well, that's a God quality. But a human would say, well, that's something humans can do. And then you realize, oh, there's this parallel between me and this creator. That there is past, present, and future. But this is to suggest that all time is encompassed. This grace and peace isn't at the beginning of the conversation. It's at the middle, and it's at the end, and it'll be there for the next one. It's not A to Z, it's A to A. It's circular, much like our wedding rings, much like the idea of a Trinity, much like the idea of past, present, and future, that God is eternally present. And isn't that what you want from your God? You don't want him to be temporary. You wanted him to hear those joys and concerns today. You wanted him to be present for that. Yet, do you have questions about your past and that presence? Do you have hopes for your future that are so closely yoked to the past that it impedes your present? I'll try not to get too philosophical here. But Revelation is steeped in that sort of stuff. And so what John is saying here, this grace and peace is eternal, just like the God we believe in. And this God, we understand, as John did, is faithful and first. That God shows up before us, that God stands in front of the line, leading the way, and in this way expresses what true faith is. Jesus is the first to rise with a body that will never perish. That is what to us is deemed as an example. I want my children to do the right thing, so I must do the right thing so they can see my example. And this works it out in so many other relationships that we live this life in, and John knew that. And how important do these relationships and these social interactions become? Well, when they stop. I wake up in a bed next to a woman I love, and my alarm goes off early and it annoys her. And my feet hit the ground, and sometimes I stub my toe. Sometimes I forget something in the room. Sometimes I turn the thermostat up too high and it gets hot in there after I leave, and she will miss all those things when I'm dead. Isn't that love and pain? I'm causing her pain. I only put it up 2 notches. Take a blanket off. Ain't gonna kill you.